I posted in Discord to ask people in the YouTuber Discord about like people that live stream. Like, how do you get people involved like immediately? Like, how do you start to have it be an entertaining show from the beginning? Because usually what we do is we turn it on, we chat for a few minutes, which is like fine, and we welcome people. It's not like the most exciting thing, but somebody suggested having like a hot topic to introduce. Like,
Mm,
I don't know. So in Discord this morning,
hot
we kind
takes.
of chatted about like the Twitter API going paid and no longer. Which, I mean, how many applications are going to be affected by like just Twitter login? Like so many things use that. I think
Well, that is
is
that
that
part of
not
that issue?
still? I
I would hope that that would.
Someone suggested, again, this is all just hearsay on Twitter.
Oof.
Someone suggested that it was, and when they said that, I was like, oh, that's like a really big deal.
I mean, that'd be a way bigger breaking change than I even
Mm-hmm.
expected.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Um, we'll see. I'm also thinking about. I found a cool hack as a content creator for Chat
Mhm.
GPT, which I had seen in a YouTube video, and I was like, that's brilliant. So with Chat GPT, they asked for alternative titles to a given YouTube video. So that's one of the things that like you can A/B test is, and I've never really seen this have much of an impact for me personally, but like you can change out your thumbnail or title or description and actually see a bump in views if it goes the right way.
Mhm.
So to get ideas, they just threw like a description of the video and the title into ChatGPT, and it spit out like 20 different ones. So I did that the other day, and it like I immediately went and just updated a few titles just to see how they would do because they gave me so many ideas to play around with.
I'd be interested to hear the results on that.
Yeah.
So this could actually get into a pick, but I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Oh, with Creative Elements. I've picked that podcast before, but they were interviewing a guy named Jake. Hold on, let me find his name. But anyways, he like specializes in YouTube titles. Like that's all he does. And
Yeah.
so he talked
Awesome.
about like he has all these data points for
Yep.
titles, and like it was crazy and fascinating how he figures all that stuff out.
Yep.
So but I can include a link for anybody
I
that
got
wants to
an
check out his stuff.
I got an ebook for my birthday on YouTube A/B testing of titles. So a person had documented like 100 different titles that they A/B tested, and here's why.
Awesome.
I also have a newsletter that I sign up for.
I wonder if it's the same guy.
It may be. Let me check his name. But it's they
Jake
send
Thomas.
out. This is. Yes, it is from Jake Thomas. So Jake Thomas sends out a weekly newsletter
Mhm.
with like hot YouTube titles. So he picks a video and then he gives it like a score of basically how good he thinks it is. And so he goes from like 1 to 5 or something, and then he has one that bombs at the end too. So I just like save those, and anytime I'm looking for like
Mhm.
a title for a YouTube video, I try to let the proven here's the things that seem to work kind of influence the content a little bit
Mhm.
to help get extra visibility to it.
I'm gonna stick this link. This is a YouTube video that he made, so it'll come through as James. But
Learn with Joseph on YouTube. What's up? Alex Pablo, good morning. Does StreamYard have a new
yes,
label
it
thing?
does.
It does. And the crazy thing is it like knew our labels for us. Like we didn't even choose these. It just
Right.
automatically gave me cool person.
It's like a little scan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like that's definitely cool person
Mhm.
material, I think.
Well, what's funny is I was trying to decide, do I put my job title in the bottom or do I put my handle in the bottom? And my name is so short that it looked funny to
Oh,
have
if you did
like just 3 letters and then something longer.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
Yeah. I guess I could do like both of them, James Q Quick, one like my name, like uppercase and space, and then one as the handle. Or I could do full-time technical content creator.
I think you're gonna say full-time cool person.
Oh, that too.
I think the handle does it, James. It's
yeah. It's got me covered.
Eric, I was gonna say there is a feature you have to go under the brand settings and turn it on to say show headlines. And as soon as you click that on, it'll ask you what your title is. And then I think if you ever want to change it, then you have to go and like leave the room and come back. I couldn't figure out where there was a setting to do that.
Oh, really?
without- I think so.
That's how they get you.
Interesting.
That seems silly.
I think I was able to change mine.
Oh, well, I just
But
don't know where that setting
maybe-
is.
There's
Huh.
the dots and on your
Like on your
avatar
own
bar.
thing. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The dots.
Well, I don't actually have buttons in here.
Edit name and headline I've got on mine.
Oh, down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Oh well, fun times. Do you guys want to get started?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, my eyes just started to water like really bad. If people can't
So
tell,
beautiful.
I'm sick and now I look much worse. So Amy's
You
gonna
can
do the
turn your-
majority of the
You
talking.
can also turn your camera off. I won't blame you.
I might. This may be the most entertaining thing that people get out of the stream
Oh
is
my
watching me
goodness.
cry. We'll see.
One of our mutual friends, actually among all three of us, is Josh Goldberg, and he has been on the podcast before. And he was posting on Twitter the other day that he had LASIK surgery, and his
Oh,
eyes look disgusting. Like, there's no need for you to share that picture. But he was talking about having them.
So we can all celebrate me not looking as bad as Josh. So thanks, Josh, for having worse eyes than I do.
Oh, it was gross.
setting that bar on the
Right.
floor.
All right,
All right.
let's kick it off. Do your thing, Amy.
Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
Also, since I'm doing the intro today, I'm going to ad lib. If you want James to do the rap live, put a little thumbs up in the comments.
So to 100% not be the time for me to do that. But I did pitch. We were on a podcast the other day with Cloudinary, and I did pitch that if they send me a beat, I would do a rap intro for them. So keep an eye out for that.
Which is
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. By the way, what's up, everyone? My name is James Q. Quick, and I am a full-time sick technical content creator / cool person.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton, and I'm the Director of Design at Zeal. And today's episode is sponsored by Daily.dev. So we all know it is very hard to stay up to date in this industry. There's constantly new tools and products and services that are coming out, new functionality that we need to stay up to date with. And Daily.dev is the perfect solution to helping you stay up to date. So it is a Chrome extension that both James and I use to receive that news and to stay up to date. And the cool part about it is it will also filter the information that it's sending you based on what your personal preferences and what you like. So it's great for consuming content, but also inspiration if you are a content creator and looking for the latest and greatest trends. So check it out at daily.dev. So special thanks to daily.dev for being our sponsor. And today's episode, we have Michael Richardson joining us, which we're extremely excited about. So Michael works at Kroger, which is awesome. Michael, welcome to Compressed FM.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, James. It's great to be here.
We got to meet Michael in person at that conference. So it's a little confusing because the conference name is That Conference. But yes, it was really just a joy to get to know you. And one of the cool things about Michael, while there are plenty of cool things, is that he also runs his own conference based out of Cincinnati. And so you can see in his title there that he is the organizer at Momentum. So I'm sure we will include a link to that particular conference in the episode notes if you want to check that out. But we thought it'd be fun to talk about what happens behind the scenes when you are managing a conference. What are all the things that you take into account? And then maybe some tips and tricks for making the most out of your conference experience.
I'd love to. I'm excited. Can't wait.
Okay. I tell you what, for a little bit of context, Michael, why don't you just talk about a little bit about what you do at Kroger and
Sure.
some of your experience and provide a little bit of context.
Awesome. I am currently the engineering manager, one of the engineering managers on the API platform at Kroger. So we're building out tools to make it easier for teams to produce and consume APIs and find the data they need, that kind of thing. I'm specifically the EM over the developer marketplace team, building developer.kroger.com. So we've got some public APIs there. Then we also have partner and internal APIs that we're working on. So that's what I do at Kroger now. I've got a great team that I work with, and really enjoy that.
So the number one thing that I learned from Michael in person the other day was he gave a talk about SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what part of the conversation this came up, but he was talking about product codes,
Mm-hmm.
and he listed whatever the ridiculous product code is for bananas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just being funny, and I was like, sharp cheddar cheese, like just throwing out something random, and everybody was like, no, it's bananas. I'm like, how in the world? And everyone at the table that we ended up sitting with at lunch was like, yeah, that's just like common knowledge. Had no idea that was a standard thing across grocery stores.
Yeah, 4011.
Yeah. Same at every grocery store. I actually remember that very specifically from tagging bananas when I worked in produce.
See, that makes sense. But other people just know that from shopping
years and years ago.
Yeah.
So the reason that we know it is if you go through self-checkout, a lot of times it'll ask you to type in the code that's on the sticker, and then you put the bananas on the scale, and then you can bag it. So if you buy bananas and go through self-checkout a lot, you'll enter 4011. I used to know avocados, but I don't remember that one anymore.
I think those vary by size, though.
Okay. Well, and the other interesting thing that came out of that conversation was if you want something that's organic, you just put a 9 in front.
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, I was also on the SEO, the tech lead on the SEO team for several years there, which was a lot of fun.
Super cool.
So I will share this too, because I think it's interesting, and it kind of maybe segues a little bit from this conversation, but part of the lesson objective that Michael was sharing was there's a section of the Kroger URL that basically gets ignored, but is there for humans. So for example, I'm totally making this up, so don't necessarily go to this link, but if you went to kroger.com/bananas/ like a bunch of zeros 4011, it would send you over to the bananas page. And so the piece that the Kroger code is paying attention to is that weird number at the end, but that bananas text is there for people.
So it's a common strategy you'll see in SEO and other things. It's frankly a user experience issue, to be honest, where putting that slug in the URL can make it a lot easier to know what it is when people are looking for it, or when they're using their browser history or anything like that. Helps to find it more easily.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating because I haven't really thought too much about the user experience of URLs. I mean, obviously I want something that's readable, but the idea that you can ignore sections of the URL when you're writing code, that's the piece that was a new concept for me.
The first place I really saw that I can remember was Stack Overflow. So you'll notice that the title of the question is in the URL, but Stack Overflow actually ignores that when they're loading the page. So you could just change it to foo or anything, and it would still load the same content.
Awesome. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you is what led you to start your own conference?
So I have been involved with Momentum since almost the beginning. It was created by a guy named Dominic Varacalli, and he was an engineering manager at Kroger. And when I was super interested in conferences at the time, talking to one of the other managers, and he said, "Oh, you should talk to Dominic. He's trying to start one." So I got involved with Dominic. He looped me in, and I helped put it on the first year. And then Dominic moved to Portland, and so I took over at that point. I've been working with it. So I've been basically lead organizer, and then also working with the Circuit, which is a Cincinnati tech organization, nonprofit that kind of runs Momentum, and work with Tracy there, Tracy Ruberg, and she does a great job. We kind of collaborate to put on the conference. But I always felt like the thing that got me really excited about it was I'd been going to conferences for several years, both in Columbus and one in Sandusky, Ohio. CodeMash, which I love. So CodeMash and Star Trek have always been my go-tos. And I was just sad that Cincinnati didn't have a developer conference like that. And I felt like there must have been a reason. And what it turns out is the reason is nobody created a developer conference like that in Cincinnati. So I was so excited to get involved and really get that off the ground. And we've really been growing ever since. It's been exciting.
Awesome. So is that a situation where they asked you specifically to run the conference, or did you, like when they transitioned out, or did you volunteer? Like, what did that process look like?
Sure. So Dominic got me heavily involved the first year. I ran a lot of the developer side stuff with him and Tracy. And then when he decided to move to Portland, it was just a clear transfer. He's like, look,
Okay.
I think you've done a great job with it this year. I want to hand this over to you. And
Awesome.
so I kind of took over from there.
So what's been the biggest benefit to doing that yourself?
It's enabled me to meet and work with a lot of awesome people, and I really love what I believe Momentum is doing for Cincinnati and the Cincinnati developer community. So we are, in a way, putting Cincinnati on the map for developer speakers and things like that, where they start to know Cincinnati because of Momentum. And then one of the goals there is developing speakers that are based in Cincinnati so that we can give them a launching pad to speak at Momentum, and then they kind of get discovered out of that.
Very cool. So that process of finding speakers, what does that look like?
So ours is not that different from a lot of other conferences. We run a call for speakers for a period of time. We've been using Sessionize and been very happy with it. Essentially, our call for speakers is, for the past couple of years, has been open for the month of May. And I like that because it makes it very simple. Look, that's when it's open. I don't have to be too vague about it. We're open for the month of May. And basically, we just promote that as much as possible. Speakers will submit the talks that they are interested in presenting at Momentum. And then once we've gotten them all in, we close the call for speakers at the end of May. And then we will begin the selection process. And I can go into detail about that if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So we use a two-stage process. The first one is an evaluation by like a group of content evaluators. And these are people, friends, people from the community, speakers in the area, and they run through and they'll rate the talks. Sessionize has this great thing where you can put 3 side by side and you say, oh, I like that one best and that one middle and that one least. And then it does an algorithm based on that as far as which one talks are most liked by those content reviewers. Once that's done, and we'll typically organize the talks by topic or track, and then some people will review various tracks. It kind of depends on the quantity we get. Last year was our biggest ever, which was pretty exciting, but it definitely creates more work. So once we're complete with the initial content review, and that is anonymous, by the way, so we hide the speaker identities, and so they're just reviewing based on title and abstract. Once we've gotten through that process, then it comes down to our kind of core content committee, where my co-organizer, Kat Fairbanks, leads that. Led that last year, and she did a wonderful job. So that's when we start to filter it out. We start to look at, okay, well, we've got 5 talks about React that did pretty well with reviewers, but we're not going to have all of these talks about the same thing. And so we'll pick and choose based on various factors, some of which are demographics based. For example, we want to make sure that we're getting a diverse field of speakers. We want to make sure that we are picking speakers that are both experienced and also some new speakers to give opportunities. And the goal is to just build a great conference while considering so many different factors as part of it.
Very cool. And I also want to highlight that different conferences will go about this process differently. It
Totally
really just
true.
depends on the event.
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned a couple times like supporting newer speakers, which is
Mhm.
always a tough thing to do because
It is.
which you don't want to you want to give people opportunities because everybody's first talk has to be somewhere. But
Mhm.
you also want to make sure that the content that people are presenting is good content and it's presented in a way that is well received. So I'm kind
Yep.
of curious, like what are some of the things that you do? Do you have like formal mentorship for first time speakers or beginner speakers? Do you have workshops for them? What kind of stuff do you do to help them feel comfortable and have a successful first talk?
So we've not established a formal mentorship process at this point. That's probably something we'll do a little bit more of this year. We have done abstract workshops in the past, and I think we plan to do that again this year. So basically, the idea is, you haven't submitted before, you want to work on your abstracts and make them better. We'll help you either filter your topics or how however we can help you during that workshop. We can give advice around what we've seen and what we recommend, and do some one-on-one. We're always willing to kind of help with that when people are submitting their talks. But yeah, as far as the process, we're definitely available when people reach out if they need help, and we can connect them with some of our more experienced speakers. But we haven't established a formal mentorship process yet, partly because organizing conference is a lot of work, and every complication that you add is something on top. So we have to be strategic about what we're doing each year. And the benefit of having this will be our fifth year, fifth year this year, and the benefits of having four of them under our belt is that we have built out a decent, system. And so there's a lot that we don't have to reinvent every year. So we can start adding on top of that each year.
Do you
I
want
was
to talk? Are you ready?
Do you want to talk? Yes, please.
That was
We have
started towards
permission.
Michael, but
I was just going to say, for people that have never submitted for a conference talk, do you want to give a little bit more information or describe what
Absolutely.
an abstract is exactly? Because I think if I were
I'd love
just
to.
starting, I'm like, what do I include? What's interesting?
So there's tons of great resources that you can find on this. We've published some. Codemash publishes their own. StirTrek publishes some. You can find all kinds of things on Twitter. But really, what it comes down to for a talk is the title, which is it's pretty self-explanatory. Catch attention. Sum up what the talk is about, and then the abstract to expand on that. And both of those are going to they're essentially a sales pitch. They are selling to the reviewers and selling to the attendees what your talk is about and why they should be interested in it. Then another critical component that often gets not skipped over, but may not realize until towards the end is the bio. And so it's really important to write up a good bio talking about why you have the experience to talk about these subjects and what experience you have to especially if you have speaking experience, to talk about that. So then you can also usually give notes to the reviewers that aren't published to the audience. Go ahead.
Very cool. I was going to say, our good friend Colby Fayok has written a CFP template at cfptemplate.com. So I will include that link in the chat and in the episode notes. So be sure to check that out if that's something that you're interested in.
Michael, you mentioned last year getting the most CFPs, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind sharing the numbers? Like how many did you get and how many do you accept? Because I think one of the things,
great question,
we probably want to set expectations for is even me at different points of my career, having had years of experience and speaking at conferences, my acceptance rate may be 30%. Like I may only get accepted at 30% or lower. So it's not
for sure.
It's you give yourself chances. It's never a guarantee. But what are those numbers, or what did those numbers look like last year?
Yeah. So on that note, I just got a rejection today, which it happens. You start to develop a skin around that. The bigger thing is being accepted to speak at a conference is an opportunity to see my friends, which is and that's one of the reasons why sometimes it hurts. But coming back to your question, we had about 370 submissions last year, and we were only able to select 34 talks.
Oh.
So that's a less than 10% acceptance rate.
Mhm.
And so there are so many talks that we love and we want to accept, and we really want to be a part of Momentum. And there's just no way we can have all the talks that we really want. So, like you were mentioning, if you are submitting talks to conferences, you're starting out as a speaker, you have to increase your surface area. You have to increase because there is just that incredible likelihood of getting declined. You need to submit to multiple conferences, and that may or may not be challenging in your area as far as travel, but some conferences are starting to cover travel now, or your company may cover travel. So for example, with Momentum, for example, we're not at the point where we can cover travel yet, but we do cover accommodations. So if you can get to the conference, we've got your hotel covered, no problem. Of course, you get free admission. So, and we take care of our speakers, make sure you get dinner the night before and night after. And so we make sure that it's not a huge out-of-pocket expense as much as we can.
One thing I did want to point out is just because you get rejected from one conference with a particular abstract doesn't mean that that same abstract won't get accepted in another conference. A lot of it
Exactly.
sometimes depends on the conference itself and maybe what track, if there's like a theme that they're trying to do, or maybe somebody else submitted a talk similar to yours and that other person just got picked. And so then that means the next conference, yours might get accepted, whereas if they didn't apply.
Absolutely. So that's, and that's something I've seen both as a speaker and an organizer. It may just be the way that things fall out with that, so just keep submitting. Obviously, keep revising. Get feedback on your talk. If you didn't get accepted, it's really hard a lot of times for conference organizers to give you that specific feedback, but sometimes it's worth asking. At the very least, just reach out to other speakers in the community or friends of yours and say, read through this and tell me what you think about it. Does it make sense? What's the impression you're getting from this abstract?
Yep. And I would say even reach out to the event organizer, because at the end of the day, they want their event to be the best possible event. And so while they might not be able to hold your hand and write your abstract for you, they're a lot of times either willing to give you feedback, or if they are looking for a specific theme, they're able to tell you what that is. Or if they say, hey, we've gotten a lot of submissions around this topic, something in this vein would be interesting. So they're there as a resource for you. And so take advantage of that.
On that note, most conferences will publish details about their call for speakers, what they're looking for, what kind of things they like to see. So always take a chance and take the time to read through that and see what they're looking for.
Yep.
On that same thought, do you want to talk a little bit about like how technology focused or a specific area Momentum is specifically? Like, what are the different categories of talks that you look for? Are you looking for, I assume most conferences are looking for a mix of like beginner content versus intermediate. What are some of the like kind of high level thoughts that go in to the content for Momentum?
It's a great call out there. There's a lot of different conferences with a lot of different themes. Momentum is a generalist developer conference. So we have back end, front end, DevOps, people skills, machine learning, database focus. So anything that a developer is going to be working on regularly is fair game. Back end and front end are obviously kind of the two core things there. And then we do have a full track of professional skills or people skills, however you want to call it. And that's one, frankly, my favorite. But we do get a lot of submissions for that. So, and that is a theme with conferences. So realize that the professional skills track, that the people skills stuff is very competitive. Now, definitely encourage people to go down that road, but also realize that if you don't get accepted, it's tough to get in there.
It may also be worth for people, if you have the ability to have a few different abstracts prepared for different categories. So I
Mhm.
have always had a few different technical talks and a professional skills talk, and I've kind of found out in my career, I'm kind of looking at a different step in my speaking career
Mhm.
direction, but I'm leaning much more to the professional skills and career and inspirational
Yep.
talks than ever before, because like this is a little sad, but I'm not the best developer. Like like I could do talks on development related topics, but I don't write production code every day. So the people who are better that do that are going to be better equipped to write those types of talks. Again, not to say that I couldn't, not to say that other people couldn't, but I find myself kind of leaning more to the professional skills talks, and I've enjoyed those a
Absolutely.
lot.
Same here. And that, like you mentioned, building out a variety of talks is definitely useful if you're looking into getting into the speaker scene. And Sessionize and some of the other, particularly Sessionize, but there are other platforms as well. They often will make that easy to kind of keep those together and make it easy to resubmit them to various conferences. So you don't have to rebuild the wheel each time.
Yeah.
You know, it is, and realize you can give a talk more than once.
Yeah.
It is that was something it took me a minute to realize as a speaker. And the first time I was able to get a talk accepted twice, and I didn't have to build the whole thing just for one conference. I was like, this is amazing.
Mhm.
What-
I love that.
One thing that I would also encourage people to do is if the conference has happened, so in your case, this is your 5th year doing it, you can go back to the previous year and see what types of talks were interesting. And so if you see something like, oh, yeah, I could talk about something, I'm not saying copy their talk. I'm just saying when
Yes.
you look at other conferences, what are topics that are interesting to you? Because chances are, if it's interesting to you, then somebody would be interested in hearing it. So if you lean towards, oh, I like demo talks where they're demoing an application, then find an application that you've worked on and be willing to talk about that. Or if you really enjoy the motivational inspiration piece, like James was talking about, then like lean into that. So you're not the only one that finds that interesting.
Yeah. So, we're humans. We're great at finding patterns, right?
Yep.
So, reviewing talks from previous years is going to be super valuable in knowing what those organizers are looking for.
Yep.
Some for instance, some conferences, they like lighthearted stuff. They want, hey, if you throw a little humor into the topic, or make it more interesting, throw in a different kind of twist on it. They're looking for that. Other conferences are going to be much more serious and straightforward. They want, this is .NET 6 or Intro to React. Boom, right?
That's a good point, is just to know your audience, because every event is also going to have its own culture around that particular event. So how would you define the momentum culture?
That's a great question. I would say that we are focused on creating a professional, fun experience for people to, discover new things and create value that when they go back to their job. We are kind of figuring some of that out as far as how do we brand that? How do we create something that's more unique around momentum? Because a big part of the impetus for creating it was wanting to have something like other things that we'd seen in Cincinnati. And so from there, we've kind of, I think, succeeded in that. And now we're kind of developing our own flavor and our own thing. Honestly, a big part of a conference's character is the organizers. And I think that it's important to lean into that. Some conferences I find don't even post the about who is organizing it. And I think that's a real miss, because I think it's important to give that personal touch and say, okay, these are the people in charge of this, and that's who to yell at if they make mistakes. But it kind of develops around the people. And I will say it's super important to build out a team of people because you need those different perspectives. And also, I have a rule that I like to use. You have two options. You can build a team, or you can burn out. And so I do not believe there is a third option when you are an organizer.
Mm-hmm. I think that principle could be applied to more than just event organizing, just life in general.
Absolutely.
Do you have, for people that are listening now, we haven't mentioned it yet, and I think the answer is yes. Do you want to share like what the dates are for this coming year?
Absolutely. Momentum is coming up on October 19th. It's a single day conference at Hard Rock Casino in downtown Cincinnati. It's going to be awesome. And like I said before, our call for speakers is open for the month of May. We typically announce our talks in June or July, and then speakers and tickets go on sale just after that.
Super exciting. It's hard to believe. I remember talking to you early on, maybe at KCDC a few years ago when we first met, and to see that you're still doing it, I think is a huge accomplishment. And by itself, like that, just organizing a conference. You obviously know this. I know this from being on the outside and hearing about it and understanding more of the logistics that go into it because I've been to a lot and my wife does events. It's just an overwhelming amount of things. And so I love the call out there of it is a lot of work. It's rewarding. But if you don't have a team around you to support that, it's not really a sustainable thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. For so many reasons.
Yeah.
What would you say is the hardest part about organizing a conference? Or is it different every year?
I think there are a few hard parts. One of the easier ones because I was thinking about it this morning to bring up is sending those decline emails.
Is easy?
That is one of the easy ones that come to mind. That's one of the hardest things about running a conference is sending those decline emails. Yeah. Oh no, I love it. I love declining people. No, it's really hard because being in
people
the industry,
put effort into it. Yeah,
for sure. And being in the industry for so long, you become friends with people, and it's hard to say, we can't accept you this year, but that's just the way it is a lot of times.
Yeah. Even if it's your friend that, like if James or I submit, telling us no.
If it doesn't,
he's already setting expectations. He's like, just so you know, most likely
10%, man, less than 10%.
It's like the similar thing with getting an invite to a wedding or not. Like until you've planned and paid for a wedding, you don't understand why you don't get invited to everyone's wedding. And then you go through the process of planning and paying for it. And you're like, if I ever don't get invited to a wedding, hats off. It's cool. I get it because I've been there. It's very, very tough thing to do.
And so one of the other things that I think is hard about doing almost anything with a team is the interpersonal part. And it's just managing that and keeping the team dynamics healthy and making sure that everyone is pulling in the same direction and has the same goals and is focused on the same things.
Absolutely. You mentioned Momentum being a single day conference. So just an idea for people, like you can have conferences that are one day, you can have conferences that are 2 or 3 days. Huge conferences can be like a week or something, but that's kind of probably out of the realm of what we're talking about here. So there's also the idea of single track versus multi-track, of how many talks at any given point do you have. So I don't think you've clarified the single versus multi-track. So you can clarify that from Momentum. And then do you have goals of making this bigger, of doing multiple days and more speakers and all the things that come along with that?
You know me, James. Of course I do. But so to start, we are a multi-track conference. I think it's really, I don't want to say impossible, but incredibly difficult to do a generalist developer conference without being multi-track.
Yeah.
Because, some of your front end people are going to be interested in certain things, and back end people are going to be interested in certain things, and your DevOps or so you're not going to be able to satisfy a large crowd with a single track conference. So we have past year we did 5 simultaneous sessions, 3 session slots before lunch and 3 after lunch. So 6 total sessions give us about 30. We actually we used the main room during some of the session slots to give us a few extra sessions. So we were able to fit in 34 this year. But we're probably not going to do that this year. The feedback and general feel was that it just wasn't a great fit to use that main room for sessions. So yeah, that's kind of how we run it. We obviously, personally, I would love to see it grow. And I think that we have a lot of opportunity there to grow both in size and in length. I think it's really valuable. There's trade-offs of all of it, right? So going to multi-day creates more work, more complications, things like that, but it does create a lot of opportunities. So some speakers are not going to be interested in coming in for just a single day conference. You're certainly not going to get many attendees traveling for a single day conference. It's just not, the economics don't work on that one. Also with single day, you can pretty much, it's hard to add in anything kind of workshops or anything like that. So one of the things that we're considering is, do we add a workshop day, that kind of thing. And so I would love to see us grow beyond the bounds of where we are as far as attendance, but also I'd love to see us add days in the future. I don't know if that's 100% in store for 2024, but that's kind of the discussion we're having right now. And unfortunately, a lot of times you have to make those decisions more than a year in advance. So some of those decisions we have to make before we even do 2023. And that's a real challenge as an organizer.
And that's because you have to book like space and venue and that sort of stuff that far
exactly.
out, right? Yeah.
So, yep.
It's really, it really is just incredible. I've got to talk to Clark from that conference and get into conversations with him about some of the behind the scenes stuff and how much random things cost, which is way more than you ever imagine. And then, like you said, just booking things out that far in advance. And that's a risk, right? Because you're committed. I don't know exactly in your case, you don't have to do specific details, but you're committed to something probably with some sort of contract. And you have to make that happen a year or more out, which it's a tough thing to do. Again, another testament to like how amazing it is for you to still be doing this after us talking about it for the first time a couple of years ago.
Thank you.
I wanted to pivot slightly and ask you about the tech. So the tech behind the website where you're publicizing, but also like ticketing. That's like a huge piece of tech.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
We use the same website that we use for several years now, built with Gatsby. We host on Netlify. It's a pretty straightforward application. We're mostly happy with it. It does a great, static site generators are wonderful for promoting a product, for promoting anything. Once you start to get interaction and you have users doing certain things on the site, it starts to get more challenging, and you're no longer using the platform to its full extent. With the ticketing, we use Tito, which I've been super happy with. We started out with Eventbrite, and it was good, but definitely did not have all the niceties that Tito has. Really been super happy using that one. So happy.
So you're saying that you're directly the cause of Gatsby being acquired by Netlify because of how good of a pairing it was?
That was 100% us. I have to take full credit for that.
That was my big takeaway of the day. There you go.
Yeah.
How do you integrate with you have to repeat the ticket system, but do you integrate with them through an API? Is there like a technical integration into the site, or like how does that work?
So they do have APIs. The way that we've done it so far is they have their own widgets that you can drop onto your page. So you just drop a widget onto the ticket page, and people could purchase through there.
So you load in like their JavaScript and CSS, and it just shows the widget and handles the
web
back
components.
And forth. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And one more time, what was the name of that platform?
Tito.
Okay.
Tito. If you search Tito tickets, you'll find it. I forget the exact website, but
I was
Toe is one of them. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say the name, and I realized I was going to say Flemo, which is the name of someone that's in the chat, and I like couldn't get
Okay,
back to what it was originally,
gotcha.
so I had to make sure that you clarified what the name of that is.
Yeah, I believe it's a European company, but they work great for U.S. events as well. Talked to a lot of other organizers who do like them, and they have a lot of features that can handle different you know ways to make up and communicate with your attendees and that kind of thing. Been really
You
well.
haven't had any Ticketmaster Taylor Swift situations yet.
If only we were that popular. I mean, I know other conferences that have had interesting stuff like that. Star Trek for many years would sell out in minutes.
Wow.
Code Mash was similar, but yeah, never where it's basically DDoSing the site.
Okay.
You do swag also, and
Ah.
what's the process? What kind of vendor? Like what is all that like?
So we primarily do T-shirts. We found that to be really good, and we invest heavily in making nice T-shirts. That's something we really focus on. Use a friend of mine, Gary Darna. He runs a company called Micro Merch, and we've been super happy with the work that he's done. He produced both the Momentum shirts this year, and Kroger had some special Momentum shirts created for our attendees. And they were, I love seeing people wearing them. Everybody's like, I love this T-shirt. So, been super happy with that.
Yeah. So is that a like, I guess this is probably most common. So there's kind of two different ways to do swag. One is the drop ship idea where people individually can go and buy stuff. And then there's the other aspect, which is bulk purchasing based on, in this case, would be ticket sales. I'm imagining you're doing the bulk purchasing, which gets a lot cheaper.
We are, yes.
cost,
and so
there's
a couple different ways to do it. Almost every conference I've seen, they do a bulk purchase of T-shirts or hoodies or whatever they're giving away, and then they'll either give it out at the conference, or what I've seen a couple times is that the conference will ship it to the attendees beforehand. So that's what Star Trek has done for many years, where they'll ship a box to the attendees. It's got their ticket, it's got their T-shirt, everything in
that's
it.
Fun.
And it's pretty cool.
It gets a lot more expensive, I would think, though.
It does.
Shipping of individual items.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch. I remember getting, I don't know if it was a speaker gift or maybe it was just the regular attendee thing, but it was like for Star Trek. This was back in 2018 or 19. It's a very fancy branded box that I got. Again, I don't know if that was as a speaker or just
printed.
an attendee. Yeah. But that was
that's one of the things,
really neat.
Yeah, they do a great job with that. And they kind of have a comic book theme to the whole conference, which they've leaned into. And I think they've done a great job with that. So that they're strong on the branding there. And it really does simplify things like registration. So in the morning, you come in, you wear your badge to the conference, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, the key there, and I've talked with Jeff Blankenberg about this, is that you have to be able to get those tickets sold before the conference so that you know who you're shipping it to. And there's various complications and problems with that I'm sure he could lean into more. For me, it was filling in the address information for 60 Kroger employees, collecting it, then filling it in on the platform. Took me a few hours. I got it done, but it was not the best part of my day.
One of the most unique conference experiences that Michael, you told me about, so you have to kind of help me fill in the blanks here.
Certainly.
Was, I think, an after party at a bar.
Talking about PubConf.
Yes.
Oh, PubConf is spectacular. I'm suddenly blanking on who runs that. Yeah, well, they've done it at KCDC. I'm trying to remember where I don't think KCDC is where it started, but they've had it there several times. And that was my first time attending PubConf. It was so much fun. Basically, it is speakers get invited to give talks, typically quite humorous. they're always going to be humorous, but the organizer, he actually messes with the slides for some of them, or you might get a topic that you didn't know what it was, or the other speakers have made your slides for you, and then you have to give a talk based on that. So it's so amazing, really entertaining. And if you go to a conference that has a PubConf attached to it, definitely take the opportunity to attend that.
And I think that that goes to what we were talking about earlier, where each conference and event has its own culture. The PubConf definitely has its own piece with just being
For sure.
hilarious and improv and not really meant to pass information and educate the end user.
Far more for entertainment than for
Yes.
education. But I do think, just to take a tiny second here, talks are entertainment, regardless of where you're giving them, regardless of the, whether it's an education talk, your goal is still to get the person excited about that thing so that they will research it more later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
One of the questions I was wondering about earlier was before the conference, and there is a meetup I think that you run now, or at least a co-organizer of. Was there much in like the kind of more casual meetup scene before the conference? Was that something that kind of like influenced the idea of like, we have people that are interested in something bigger, or was it kind of a jump to go to the whole conference idea originally?
So if you're talking about the Cincinnati developer community and the culture there, so we've had, ever since I got started as a dev, there's been a variety of meetups. Now, meetups have taken real hit since the pandemic, and that's been a struggle. But I'm, still excited about the opportunities of Momentum and meetups and other parts of the Cincinnati developer community to really lift each other up, and kind of the rising tide lifts all boats strategy, so that meetups can help promote Momentum, and Momentum can help connect people to meetups. So, for example, one thing that we've done for a few years now is after speakers are submitting their talks, we ask, hey, would you be at all interested in speaking at a local meetup? And anyone who says yes, we'll typically check whether they'll tell us whether they want to do it virtually or in person, and we'll collect those results and then share those out with user group meetup organizers so that they can reach out to any speakers that have talks that they might be interested in. And we found that to be super useful to a lot of the user group in the area.
I just wanted to highlight, did you notice the saying, James?
saying?
Rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah, James and I
Rising tide lifts all boats. We always mess it up.
Okay.
We were recording a episode for PodRocket, so everybody should go check out the PodRocket podcast. I believe our episode releases next week. But I think James said rising boats lift the tide.
Rising boats fall into the water. Something. We try.
Just trolling just a little bit.
Yes, I know. We can only do so good. Amy, do you have any additional questions before we move into picks and plugs?
No, I love all of this. I just love getting the behind the scenes. I know we've talked about speaking at conferences before. We talked about our experiences at conferences. And I think some of that is just because James and I have gotten so much personally and from our career by attending conferences and meeting new people and expanding our network. And so this is just an extension of that. And so it's fun to see the behind the scenes look at what it takes to make something like that happen.
Yeah, that's one of the big things that did get me started. I guess I missed that. But the first time I went to a developer conference, I just remember thinking, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done. Pump this straight into my veins. I need more of this in my life. And so, when the opportunity arose to help create one in Cincinnati, it was just a no-brainer. Yes. How can I become part of this?
Yeah. And I think, a huge part of that is just your exposure. So one of my favorite conversations that I had at that conference was talking with Brad Garapi, who works at Atlassian. And so he talked about a lot of the enterprise problems that they have that we don't
Mhm.
necessarily encounter at Zeal or that I encounter in my day-to-day work or side projects. And so to hear him say these are hard problems that it's hard to find other people that struggle with the same issues. So he's able to connect with other developers that struggle with the same enterprise problems, but also is interesting for me to hear what those problems are and how they're solving them.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, do not underestimate the hallway track. That
Yeah.
is one of the most valuable things that you can get out of a conference.
Yes, 100%.
I had someone, I forget what it was. It was one of those comments on YouTube, and they were like, conferences are a complete waste of time and like fair, whatever. But I mean, it's been one of the most impactful things in my career. Like I've made very strong friendships, including like either making or solidifying friendships with everyone
Mhm.
on the screen right now. To the point where I feel like we're going back to summer camp every year, and I'm just excited to
Yes.
see people that I haven't seen in a year. I've got job opportunities. Like I've gotten with my job now doing content, I've gotten sponsorship opportunities. So we went to a conference in London that I like paid them all of my travel for, and
Mm.
that was well worth it because I walked away with what has now amounted to like $28,000 worth of sponsorship stuff. So
Wow.
well worth the like couple $1,000s going to London and just an amazing trip and fun. So there's so
Mhm.
many amazing benefits. What I would encourage people, just like you said, is don't just go to talks and then go to your bed. Like force yourself, and it's hard. I talked about this in my keynote at that conference. Like I've been there where I've gone to my room because I didn't know anybody, but try to force yourself to get out there and meet people and just learn and be a part of everything that's going on as best you can. Because there's so much that can come out of that.
For sure.
Do we want to move into picks and plugs?
Yes.
We always do the awkward looking at each other to see who wants to go first.
I'm ready.
Okay, Amy, let's go.
Awesome. So I am going to pick, I just got this and I'm very excited about it. Oh, here it is. This is hilarious to me because it is not a fanny pack. It's a belt bag.
Fanny
To me,
pack?
this is the best rebranding in the entire world. That fanny packs have now become belt bags. But this particular
Awesome.
one is by Bellroy. And Bellroy is a little bit more pricey, but I absolutely love the quality and the durability of it. And the nice thing about this one is it's super slim and there's, oh, nice, the Bellroy wallet. I saw somebody reviewing their travel wallet that had space for multi-currencies, your passport. I mean, everything when it comes to travel. So huge fan of this brand, but there's great pockets in here. And to me, this is the best feature is this little magnetized clip that it just slides, but it clicks. It's like, the people that put the design work into this are brilliant. So anyways, check that out. Bellroy, just period, any of their products.
Oh, really good stuff.
And then I'm going to plug monthlycss.com and monthlyjs.com. So these are two websites that I put together where I'm sending out monthly CSS and JavaScript challenges. So you can sign up now and still get February's. And of course, when you sign up, you can log in. You'll get a login and see January's challenge as well. So check that out. Monthlycss.com and monthlyjs.com.
Sweet. Michael, do you happen to have stuff ready?
Sure. So lead with picks. Is that what?
Yes. Yeah. So anything
Okay.
that you have enjoyed, bought, watched,
Yeah.
listened to, used, etc.
I love my standing desk for one thing. I ended up getting an Uplift, though there's lots of good brands and value. The amount of time that I spend on this thing, it's well worth every dollar. And then with that, I really love if you're gonna have a standing desk, you need a good standing mat, or else you're gonna hate yourself. And I love the Topo mat by Ergodriven. It's not flat, it's curved. There's lots of different curves in it, which is
Nice.
so much better than even a flat comfort mat.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And anything you would like to plug?
Well, so obviously I have to plug Kroger. Definitely check out our pickup and delivery. Check out our Boost membership and get free delivery for a whole year for $59. But then more importantly, for developers watching this, check out developer.cargo.com. We have public APIs that you can build on top of and create cool things. And if we also love to partner with companies with some of our other APIs that are not fully publicly exposed. We also are often hiring. I don't know about our hiring status at the moment, but I do love working at Kroger. We typically have a lot of good opportunities, and just check that out. I'd also love to plug Momentum. We do a great conference in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you're a speaker, we'd love to have you submit during our CFP. If you're interested in attending, check out the website and sign up for our emails so that you get all the notifications when we put tickets on sale, and also follow us on social media. I also run a meetup, which is in a bit of a pause right now, but you should still check it out. We have a ton of videos on YouTube from people such as Kenzie Dodds and Guy Royce, and lots of really cool talks on there. So check that out as well. Cincinnati Software Craftsmanship is the name of the meetup.
Sweet. Love it. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And I am going to go with, for my pick, the Elgato Solid Arm. So Elgato is like one of the most popular brands for streaming equipment. So I've got 2 Elgato lights. I've got the Elgato mount for my camera. I've got some other things going on. So they're really, really great. And the thing that I'm particularly talking about is, like, after you get a mount, which is basically just a pole that goes up and down and then it clamps to your desk. I have my camera coming off of it with an arm, but I also have a ring light, and the ring light has been just like in awkward positions because I didn't have anywhere specifically to put it for months, and I added it anyway. So I'm adding another arm to the arm, or to the mount. So the mount goes up and down, the arm comes off horizontally, and now I can put my ring light just underneath my camera and kind of point it up. So it's ideally to help with some of the shadows under my eyes, especially when I'm sick. So anyway, you can kind of add anything to it, which is pretty neat. So the Elgato, I think it's not strong arm, but it's a hard arm. What do they got? Solid arm. It's one of those adjectives. And then I'm going to plug the Learn, Build, Teach Discord. So we've talked about this a lot. We do wins of the week sessions on Friday mornings where we just celebrate wins that people have had. We've started to do sessions on Tuesday afternoons. We had a career chat this past week. We had a live coding challenge, like solving one of the Advent of Code challenges in the past as well, or last week. So I'm excited to do more and more with that. And we have 2 open source repositories, one for the Discord bot and the website, which are pretty cool if people are interested in trying to contribute to those. So one of my goals is to document that better and have things more accessible for people that are beginners to be able to contribute and feel like they're a part of it and help kind of build this stuff together. So you can find Learn, Build, Teach at learnbuildteach.com. And I think that is it for this episode. If you're listening on a podcast, please leave us a rating and review to help other people find this podcast so we can continue to have great guests on like Michael and do more fun stuff in the future. Michael, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again at a in-person conference sometime this year, I'm sure.
I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to hanging out with y'all again and making new memories. Thank you for having me on, Amy. Thank you, James. It's been a real pleasure.
Love it. In the meantime, that's all we got. We're still live. I always have to clarify. I wonder if people have a better solution to this. So that's like the official end to the podcast. But Flemo was asking about URLs. Which URLs were you asking for? I can do the learnbuildteach.com is in there. Amy shared a bunch on the Twitch chat.
Oh, sorry. I can include those on the
YouTube side too.
Yeah, give me just a second.
This happens every time. I think my body is like just strong enough to make it through whatever required streaming time I have, and now I'm starting to kind of
start crying.
I'm done now.
Yeah. On the plus side, I didn't have to turn off my camera once. Play an audio clip while you're no longer recording. Yeah, that's probably what we should do.
Uh-huh. Or I mean, we could just end it and be done, but we have a little after party.
So like, yeah, I enjoy responding to people too.
Yeah.
I think I put this in earlier, but just in case, there's the link to Momentum conference as well, developer conference. Cool. Well, we're at the hour.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm gonna go eat my Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, how have you had Chick-fil-A this whole time?
I
You
know
couldn't
it's
eat it?
been the smell of it.
I know. I don't think I have that much
Yeah,
strength.
good.
Anyway, thanks everyone for being here, for participating in the chat, asking questions. Michael, thanks for joining us as
Yes.
always.
Thank you.
We'll catch you somewhere in
fun.
person, I'm sure, this year, and talk to you online.
You better.
Oh, Alex, sorry, I just made the connection. Yes, in Seattle. Gotcha. Which is funny. Alex called me out in Discord for multitasking because I responded to something in Discord while we were streaming. And they were like, multitasking, huh? Yeah, got it. Because you introduced yourself as Alex the other day. Cool. All right, we're going to call it. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Bye.